I'd like to call to order the City of Davenport public hearing of today, April 6th. Laura, you can do roll call, or somebody, can staff do roll call?
I can do roll call. Schneider.
Here.
Lammers.
Present.
Johnson.
Present.
Tallman is absent. Ingram.
Present.
Hepner is absent. Bransgard.
Present.
Reinards.
Here.
Manis is absent. Garrington.
I am here.
Perfect. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Laura. We'll start off with case ORD 21-01 as a request of the City of Davenport to amend Title 17 of the Davenport City Code, hereto referred to as DMC, entitled Zoning, amending the following sections. Matt?
Do you want to, you want to do it from over there? Oh, sorry, it's coming up.
So before us today is a public hearing on a number of different zoning ordinance amendments that have been brought up to city staff from various other people and city staff. So the first item is to remove bars as a special use in the C1 neighborhood commercial district. The intensity of bars as a use has been determined to be incompatible with the neighborhood, with the surrounding neighborhoods. There have been various land use conflicts that have arisen, and this would remove bars from the C1 district, and then we would reestablish existing bars under the category bar neighborhood. So we would add a separate use category called bar neighborhood, which would allow for existing bars that have a history in a certain location to remain as a permitted use. We also would carry over the use standards for bars as well.
So this one is removing drive-through facilities as a special use in C1 and IMU. It's something that in our conversations with developers that we really struggle to get drive-throughs that can function in these districts that are supposed to be more pedestrian friendly. They're not supposed to be vehicle focused. It's one of the reasons we're removing a couple other vehicle uses from them. The dimensional standards in the C1 and IMU are both build to areas and not setbacks, which then makes it very difficult to accommodate the queuing of vehicles, ensuring that vehicles do not back up onto our street network, as well as provide the necessary bailout lanes for those developments. So what that results in is it typically means that there is one or more hardship variants that would be requested from a petitioner in order to establish a drive-through in one of these districts. The lots for these districts are also on the small side, historically speaking. That makes them harder to work with. It would not mean that they couldn't do a walk-up window or something along those lines. This one, it was part of the conversation with City Council. Our analysis for two-family conversions, so what that means is an existing single-family home that would be converted into two-family home in the R3 and R4 districts. Currently, it is a special use. It has been our analysis that there are an abundance of conversions in these districts already, over 500 of them. That one of our statements of purpose in the zoning code is to promote infill development. And so having the two-family conversions still allowable in these districts, but not permitting them to be converted from single families is the route that we're going to take on it. from our analysis. So to recap, you still have two-family in R3 and R4. We just don't want conversion of existing single-family homes. Yeah, new construction's allowed. Live performance venues. When we were doing our analysis, there are several other districts for live performance venues. These are live bands, it's theater, things along those lines. And we noticed that it was not an allowed use in I-1, considering that sometimes these uses are noise intensive. We found it more appropriate to also allow them in I-1, as well as the ability to have an adaptive reuse of buildings within I-1. This is for outdoor dining. SICs or institutional campus. So this is just basically cleaning up the code to allow outdoor dining in areas around our high schools, our colleges, and our hospitals. So you have a cafeteria maybe, and then like a patio area where you can eat outside. Place of worship and permitted in I-1 and IMU is our proposal. So our analysis is that, so there are some buildings that would be good for adaptive reuse in these districts. Also, there are existing places of worship within these districts that would become not legal conforming instead of non-conforming at this time. It's a good, I've seen a lot of churches use more of a flex space type of use instead. And so the larger building footprint is often useful, as well as potential for having more parking lot space. Private recreation facilities, these are indoor tennis or basketball, volleyball courts or swimming facilities, and along those lines. So this would be another one that would be a good adaptive reuse of buildings. And that's why we were proposing to add them to I-1. We are proposing to add them to commercial office park as a supportive use for the office park, where somebody that was working there would be able to utilize these facilities before and after work. Our analysis for vehicle repair major, so these are a heavier duty repairs of vehicles. It's more body work, it's reupholstering the vehicles, things along those lines. We figured that there are some instances that would be appropriate to allow these in C3. C3 is primarily the mall or Elmore, along those lines. So they're often larger lots that would allow for the ability to accommodate some special use conditions if the zoning board of justice thought that they were necessary to mitigate their impacts on the neighborhood. And then we would propose removing vehicle repair minor as a special use in C1. It has not been a successful use in C1 at this time. It's deemed to not be serving the residential neighborhoods as we had anticipated. Design standards. So 17.05 is our commercial section of the code. There is some conflict between commercial design standards and dwelling use standards. So the biggest one is related to transparency. So in the commercial design standards, the street-facing side, the first floor needs to have 50% window transparency. That's just not feasible for a lot of new construction dwelling. So what we are proposing is that depending on what the developer's intent is for design, if they want it to be a more commercial setting, they can use the commercial design standards. If they want to do a traditional dwelling use, then they'd use the appropriate dwelling use standards. But they'd have to pick one or the other. They can't choose pieces of each of them. Section 1708 is our principal use standards. So what we are proposing is there's some historic neighborhood bars in these areas. So we would propose a sunset tool. So we look back over the past 10 years of where there have been what is commonly referred to as Class C alcohol licenses, which is on-premise consumption. And if that establishment in C1 had a Class C license within the last 10 years, they'd be able to reestablish as a bar in the next 10 years. But only in, I don't know why that turned off, but only in certain areas of the city that have historic bar use. So that would be Harrison between 14th and Locust, Washington between 14th and Locust, and then West Locust between Fillmore and Division. And then in the definition area of chapter 17.08, just to clarify, because it leaves some room for interpretation. In practice, this is how we're operating. We're going to propose removing the word primarily, that if you sell beer, wine, or liquor, you have the retail alcohol sale use associated with your property. That gets away from the arguments over trying to determine it by sale area or by sale volume, because that's not something we monitor, and we don't want to go down that path. Section 1717 are reservation of previously approved conditions. So these were previous rezonings that staff took a look at and brought conditions forward for certain rezoning cases. So we came across one, it was, you may recall, it was Park Place Apartments 3rd edition. When that got to the city council level, we were given a covenant from the property owners stating that the covenant stated that duplexes were required as part of that development. So based on that, the item was deleted from the city council agenda. So this is putting it back into our code as what was apparently a pretty highly contentious rezoning. And it was a condition that helped to mitigate the neighborhood concerns by adding some buffering of uses. So we are reestablishing that as conditions from previous rezoning that carries forward to the zoning code. And 17.04 is a residential section of the code. So this is as a result of removing special use for two-family conversion. So the language is stricken and then replaced with the word prohibited. So those are all of our proposed changes at this time. So the public hearing was published, the notice for it was published in the Quad City Times for today. To date, so actually after we made the staff report, I emailed out the one that we received today. So we do have one comment from a resident that is in favor of eliminating two-family conversions in residential districts as a special use. So staff will keep you informed if we receive any further comment. or correspondence. And then you will see this for consideration at the April 20th meeting.
Thank you, Laura. Would anybody in the audience like to speak either in favor or in opposition? Seeing none, do commissioners have any questions at this time?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Lammers.
Thank you.
I wondered if any of our, I'm just thinking January to date, any decisions we've made on rezoning will be impacted by these changes, or are these changes for anything moving forward?
So these would be changes moving forward. Anything that was done prior to the adoption of these amendments would be considered legal non-conforming if they are impacted, whether a rezoning happened under the new code or not. So I do not believe that there have been any rezonings that would be impacted. Not that I can recall, but we can double check.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Schneider.
I had somewhat of a similar question. When you were talking about the bar situation, does that, I mean, if someone establishes a bar and they resell it, and I'm thinking about how somebody that owns property would look at it, does that grandfather it in if they sell it, or would they lose that option?
So the use runs with the property. So as long as within that 10-year frame, they maintain that license, they would be able to maintain it. And then a lot of times, planning staff is contacted in advance of a sale, and they ask for a letter of a zoning determination. And we would state in that letter the conditions associated with that particular use.
Is that it, Commissioner Schneider? Thank you. Any additional questions from the commissioners? Hearing none, final call from the audience. Seeing none, that will close case ORD 21-01. It will come back before us at our next public hearing, currently scheduled for April 20th. We will close our public hearing agenda and move on to our regular meeting. Roll call, please.
Lammers,
Present?
Johnson,
Present.
Tallman is absent. Ingram,
Present.
Hefner is excused. Bransgard,
Present.
Reinartz,
Here.
Manis is excused. Garrington,
I'm here.
you have quorum.
Thank you, Laura. Report of city council activity.
Sorry, I'm on the wrong thing. We have actually quite a few updates for you. Hopefully I can remember them all. So the Sophie Foster rezoning passed at city council last cycle. So that is an official rezoning. You will eventually see that come through as a subdivision. The Palmer major amendment was also approved by city council, as well as the right-of-way vacations. The rezoning of 5,000 Grand has been approved by city council. The associated future land use amendment associated with 5,000 Grand has also passed through city council. City council will be reviewing the resolution to amend the future land use map for the Sophie Foster rezoning this cycle of city council. And the Westlake Business Park subdivision has also been approved by city council.
Thank you, Laura. Secretary's report. All those in favor of the secretary's report as it's printed, signify by aye.
Can I get a motion in a second, please?
Oh yeah, we do need a motion in a second.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of the secretary's report as printed, please signify by aye. Opposed, same sign. It's approved unanimously as printed. Report of comp plan, Laura, anything?
Not at this time. We will probably be opening some discussion on some areas of the city that will now be hopefully sewer served within the next few years that were urban fringe. So we will probably start bringing that to the commission here pretty soon for some level of discussion and proposals from the staff level.
Thank you. Look forward to that. It appears as though we have nothing on zoning activity. We do have one item on subdivision. Commissioner Schneider.
Okay, we have case number F21-02, request of Prairie Heights Development LLC for a final plat of Prairie Heights 4th Edition for a 21-lot subdivision on 17.3 acres located west of Old Brandy Lane and Mississippi Avenue. We have a recommendation from staff. They recommend that the Planning and Zoning Commission accept the listed findings and forward case F21-02 to the City Council with a recommendation for approval, subject to the 4 listed conditions. Those 4 conditions are that the surveyor signs the plat, that the utility providers sign the plat when their easement needs have been met, that the cul-de-sac radius is increased to meet city specifications, and that all easements be a minimum of 15 feet or twice the depth of the utility line. And I so move.
Second.
Case number F21-02 has been moved and seconded for discussion. Is that yours, Scott?
Oh, that one's mine.
Oh, Laura, sorry.
No problem. Come on, there we go. Okay, so this is a continuation of the Prairie Heights development. It hasn't been that long since the 3rd edition came through Plan and Zone Commission. So this is the area that is remaining from that subdivision. So the current zoning is R4 single and 2-family residential. The future land use 2035 has it as residential general. Here is the final plat as proposed. Really the largest change that we would like to see on it is an increased radius on the cul-de-sac. Currently it is shown as a 40-foot radius, so it will need to increase to a 45. The petitioner is aware of that and is working through that. He has said that he should still be able to meet the requirements of the lots in that cul-de-sac. And then there is, either in the construction plans, there will adjust the depth of some of the utility lines, or they will increase the easements. Really the area in question where you see that is on the very southern part of where the lots are. So it's where the Stubbs Street comes in. Those lots in the back all have 15-foot easements, but the depth of the line that they're proposing is deeper and would require a 30-foot easement. So that's accomplished by either shortening the lines or adding the easement onto the remnant lot. Other than that, we have no major concerns.
Thank you, Laura. Commissioners, any questions at this time? There is nobody in the audience, so final call for questions from the commission. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Lammers.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Bransgard. Bransgard.
He might be on mute.
She is on mute. We will come back. Reinhardt.
Yes.
Garrington.
Yes.
Schneider. Yes. Bransgard. How about Ingram?
I can't vote.
Well,
Do we,
I only have 5 votes right now.
then I would vote yes.
Okay. That passes.
Thank you. That would close the subdivision activity. Thank you, Commissioner Schneider. Future business, anything, staff, Laura?
We do have a rezoning that will be coming before you on April 20th for the public hearing. 1320 West Kimberly, the old K's Merchandise. Proposal is to rezone from C2 to C3. The neighborhood meeting for that is scheduled for April 12th. We also have 2 subdivisions. One is around Division and 76th Street. That's a 3-lot subdivision. And the other one is out by Telegraph in Wisconsin, another 3-lot subdivision. And that's
Thank you.
it. Yep.
Any communications from anybody? Any other business?
I have nothing else.
Seeing nothing, I would accept a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor of adjournment signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Please drive home safely or wherever you're headed. Thanks for your participation.